Hello everyone, and today we're going to be making a tie-dye cake. This is my quick cake recipe. It's what I use when I do not have any box cake but do not have the time to sit out butter to soften. So first we're going to take 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 cups of sugar, and we're going to whisk that together really well. After the whisking is completed, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of milk. We're going to stir and combine that as much as we can, and then we're going to add in 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. You can also use canola oil or corn oil. If you're making a chocolate cake, I suggest olive oil just because it does give it that little extra flavor and it complements the chocolate. You can use this same recipe for chocolate cake, but you're just going to add in 1/2 cup of cocoa powder as well. I then added in a tablespoon of baking soda, and then I'm going to stir and combine all of that in as well as I can. It still should be a pretty stiff biscuit-like consistency. And then I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then again stirring to combine. We're going to add 3 eggs, and stir to combine. And this is when your batter should begin to get a little more soupy and cake batter consistency. I like to use a knife to clear out my whisk. I find that it's like a really good trick. And we're just going to continue to mix all of these ingredients together. It does take a second and some muscles. If you find that your batter isn't the consistency that you desire after you've mixed in all of the dry and wet ingredients, you can add a little splash of milk to make it more of a cake-like batter consistency. I'm happy with the consistency of my batter now that I added a splash of milk. As you can see, it's a lot more liquid than it was before. We're then going to separate the batter into 2 bowls. If you're using more than 2 colors, you need to separate your batter equally into those bowls. I'm just doing yellow and pink today. Here I am adding the color to my pink batter and then my yellow batter. For my yellow batter, I'm just using yellow food dye. This is the liquid, not the gel. And you want to make sure that you mix this very well because you do not want your batter to be streaky. I add my dye in 5 drops at a time. The color that your batter is now is going to get a lot lighter once you bake it in the oven, so you want it to be more vibrant than what you would like your finished product to turn out as. Now I'm starting making the pink dye. I started off with 5 drops of red dye. I'm going to add in a drop of blue dye just to make it a little more pink color. And you also have to remember with this that it is going to bake lighter than the color that's in the bowl currently. Now it's time to put your batter in your pan. Make sure that you first butter or spray your pan with cooking spray to make sure that your cake does not stick. I took 1/4 of a cup and I am making a swirl pattern in the pan with my batter. I find that I like this better than the layering technique where you do like a bottom layer and then a smaller second layer. It's all up to you. You can also use another technique to make a tie-dye cake, and it's just putting 1/4 of a cup all around in patches instead of in swirls. So I'm just going in with 1/4 a cup of yellow and then 1/4 a cup of pink, and I'm alternating until I get to the halfway mark or halfway filled on my pan. Then I'm going to repeat this process with the other pan because it is a 2-layered cake. You can also get a toothpick and kind of swirl or make some designs into the batter with that. And again, here I'm just layering with 1/4 of a cup of yellow and then 1/4 a cup of pink, alternating to make sure that I get my pan filled to the right amount. And this is what they look like before they went into the oven. We're going to bake this on 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. You want to always make sure that you put your cakes in the middle of your oven for best baking results. Now we're going to make the frosting. Take a stick of butter softened and add it into your mixer. We're then going to add in some powdered sugar until we get the right consistency. You can also add in some milk to make your icing a little smoother and some vanilla. Now we're going to cut the top off of our cake to make sure that it stacks well. We're then going to add our buttercream frosting. And this is a slightly hard part because your cake will crumb onto your frosting, so you want to make sure that you put a generous amount of icing before you start moving it around so you don't take the cake with you. And now we're going to add the top of our cake. And then we're just going to ice it with some more buttercream frosting. putting the frosting in clumps along the edges and then smoothing it out. And now comes the tie-dye part of the icing. I'm using yellow dye gel for this part and red food coloring. I didn't have any red dye gel, so we're improvising. And this is gonna make sort of a sunset swirl. It makes a nice yellow and red and orange. So I just took my butter knife and I'm just spreading out that yellow dye gel. And then now I'm just spreading out the red in a swirl pattern. I'm trying to be careful at first not to mix the yellow and red, but we'll go back later and kind of do some blending. I was really surprised at how well this blended and spread. And now I'm just taking a toothpick and kind of running it along the edges to get that tie-dye look. And then smoothing it out again. This is where we start blending, kind of. And then we're going to take our toothpick again. And now I'm just taking some blue dye gel and writing 100K on it because I hit 100,000 followers on TikTok. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know what your cakes turn out like.